Oh man, so Bitcoin up 0.2, Fantom breaking down from a key pattern down 2%. But could this announcement be a key catalyst? Because we've heard some news from potentially Cronje confirming his return. So let's look into that. We've got some important on-chain metrics to look at the long-term health of Bitcoin as well. So you won't want to miss this Saturday episode. Hit up the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. As always, if you want to trade any of these moves with me, guys, check out the links in the description. PRIMEXBT are being kind enough to offer you guys up to $7,000 when you deposit using my coupon code Ijaz. BYBIT offering up to $1,000 in bonuses. So get yourself set up on both of those exchanges. And let's get straight here into the chart on Bitcoin first. Looking here at the hourly. And as you can see, I'm not surprised that we're having an okay Saturday, right? We can see a little bit of a higher low here being created. Let's just show you that. You can see we're getting a little bit of a small uptrend here on the hourly. And again, no surprise here on the weekend, whilst markets are closed, there is no catalyst to push Bitcoin to the downside. And we've seen over the last few months now that on the weekends or during bank holidays, Bitcoin tends to sort itself out a little bit before markets come and throw us back to the downside. So not a big surprise here. We're still waiting to see what kind of direction are we getting to. Are we going to head towards 31,000 and try to break? Are we going to break down towards 28,600? We're yet to know where we're heading to here, but we're going to look at some key long-term on-chain metrics to get an understanding of what's going on. More immediately, however, take a quick look here at Fantom, because Fantom is actually breaking out from its pattern now. I'm here on the 4-hourly chart, and you can see this green wedge which we've been monitoring for a while. We're getting this breakdown from this pattern now. You can see we're down 2% despite Bitcoin being slightly green today on the day, 0.2%. So does this mean we're going to head lower? Well, the key levels here are our next level is at 30 cents, right? You can see where we're kind of coming to now is this point here, which is about 33 cents. If you could hold from there, then great. Try to work your way back up to 38. If not, I'm looking at this pivot point here, which sits at 30 cents. And then I'm looking at further the bottom of the wedge, which sits at 24 cents. So those are the levels I'm looking at here on Fantom. I will not be trading on the short. You guys know I hold Fantom for the long term. If I see long opportunities on Fantom, I will take long opportunities. I will not be shorting this opportunity. Now, if you guys do want to go ahead and trade, whether it's a long position on Bitcoin or any other crypto, you can head over to BYBIT. Again, they're offering you guys $1,000, up to over $1,000 in bonuses when you sign up using my link in the description. So get yourself looking at that. Now, what I wanted to discuss today is this, because I've been sent this, and again, we're gonna have to fact check this because I don't know how real this is. So if it comes out that it's not real, we'll cover it off in a future video and we'll make sure we fact check this. But for now, it looks like we've got a broadcast only channel by Cronje. Broadcast only account. Shout out to Tommy from Delphi Podcast for giving me the idea. Remember, Tommy was the guy he gave the last interview to. But again, there's nothing really confirming this. But let's read the thread and see what we can make of it. Hi guys, I quit DeFi because of the constant pressure I was under. I love building, but the hate and spiteful comments got to me. My haters won. Twitter can be a wonderful place to engage with a community of like-minded individuals, but it can also be a cesspool of toxicity. Over the past few months, I've been able to recharge my batteries and get that old feeling of wanting to build things back. Not sure if that is feeling fleeting or if it's here to stay. Only time will tell. For now, I will continue building in private. This account will serve as a broadcast-only account meant to share my thoughts and opinions on a wide array of subjects. I've disabled the comments to keep the haters at bay. I feel if I enable the comment section, the negativity will creep in again, and I will end up quitting DeFi for good this time. To all my supporters, you guys can always DM me to ask any questions. If I find your question interesting or noteworthy, I respond to it on my feed. That's all for now. Cheers. Interesting. We're going to have to take it as real for now until we find out otherwise, because unless somebody's gone and created this, what would be the purpose of doing so? But it's interesting. We know already, if you guys haven't watched my interview with Michael Kong, CEO of Fantom, go watch that. I'm going to link that up for you guys to go watch, because we know that Cronje hasn't stopped building, right? The type of character he is, the brain he is, he's building. And we've seen the GitHub commits on FUSD. We know he's working on that with Fantom in the background. So, you know, whether he's public about it, whether he's on Twitter or not, doesn't make a huge difference. We know that he's working on stuff. And that's all that matters, is that his intellect and his mind is not going to be wasted. And we know from Michael Kong, he's strategically there with Michael Kong, helping them make decisions, helping them actively send GitHub commits like you've just seen on FUSD. So we know that he's on side. And that's a great thing for Fantom and the project as a whole. And I think it's great for crypto and DeFi as a whole. In this difficult time, when we've had so much going on, it's good to know you've got some of your pioneering minds focused on tackling the issue. And we should not be hating these guys. Yes, some of your, you might have some downtime on a project or something happens, but you cannot hate these guys. These are the minds that are going to make crypto successful, and we shouldn't be alienating them. As an influencer base, as a crypto community, crypto Twitter, we should be encouraging them to work. So we'll confirm if this account is real once we find out some more details, but it's a good sign nonetheless. Now, let's take a look at some really interesting on-chain metrics. Guys, you're going to love this segment. If you do, smash up the likes, make sure you're hitting the comments, because guys, we're spitting out some serious alpha here on a Saturday. Shout out to Glassnode for the charts. I always pick up my charts from them, not sponsored by them, but they do the best on-chain metrics. Now, first point is this: number of addresses with a non-zero balance. Okay, so these are people creating an address, putting some crypto in there, putting some Bitcoin in there. Now, what we could see is when we go back to periods of uncertainty, like through 2021, which was a difficult year with a lot of volatility in price, we saw that the number of wallets growing with a non-zero balance stagnated. We saw it plateau here as depicted by this image, and that's a sideways pattern we got, and it was like that pretty much all year last year. Okay, we then saw as Bitcoin started to run up to 70, we saw that start to accumulate, and we saw good accumulation in non-zero balances. Are we now starting to see signs that we could be going on another sideways path? That's the thing that this graph is depicting. Will we see wallet growth start to stagnate as we enter another period of uncertainty with wider global recession fears, global slowdown fears? That's what this graph is pointing out. Now, the next one, which kind of backs the previous chart up, really, is looking at the number of active entities, which is the blue line, and also looking at the number of active addresses, which is your orange line. Now, the key thing to point out here is to look at the periods in which they stagnate. So as we can see here, where we are currently here, it's stagnating. Okay, we're not up. This is an uptrend. Then we stagnate in this box. Same with the blue one, right, which is the entities. So the entities and the addresses are stagnating. Now, when we look at where this happened previously, this happens at past bear markets, right? So we can see that. So you can see that doing this, and you can see that here as well. These are stagnating periods before you then get a nicer big moves. So again, we're stagnating, but the magnitude is higher. The number of entities here when we were stagnating is less than here, so it's grown, and it's grown again. So the magnitude's gone up, but we're still stagnating and sideways. So what does this mean? Well, what this means is that what you've got no more tourists in the market. And we've been speaking about that for a while now. We've got no new people coming into crypto right now. We're stagnating at the number of new wallets, active addresses, entities, but the hodlers remain, and the hodlers remain strong. And I'm going to give you further evidence behind the hodlers remaining strong as and when we go along. Now, as we move on, this chart shows you accumulation. Okay, so this gives you a metric. It gives you a reading between 0 and 1. And 1 is the highest score, which indicates the most accumulation. Now, that, if you look on this scale, is the dark purple here. And you can look at the periods where we've got this. Now, over the last 2 weeks or so, we've recorded scores greater than 0.9, okay, in this period here where my mouse is. So this is a score of greater than 0.9, which is perfect score almost for accumulation. We're getting peak accumulation right now. And in the next slides, I'm going to show you where that accumulation is coming from. But just to know, we've got peak accumulation. And normally, when do we get this type of peak accumulation? Because if you go back here, the January to April range, we did not have peak accumulation. Okay, the prices were similar on Bitcoin, right? Prices were still quite suppressed January, Feb, March, April. But it was not peak accumulation like we've seen over the last 2 weeks. There's been a big difference over the last 2 weeks of accumulation. And again, I'm going to explain. Now, the other thing is look at where the circles are. See how these are circled? These are areas and times in the past where we've had very, very huge amounts of accumulation. Score close to 1, right? Dark purple. Now, in the previous instances, you can see this happened during a 2017 bull run. 2019 bull run, you saw it happen in. You saw it happen in the 2021 bull run. Those are these blue circles here. So this is a bull run. This was in a bull run. This was in a bull run. Okay? So you know that what happens is you get a bunch of accumulation in bull runs. Now, the green circles are slightly different. This, as you can see, was in downturns. So you get a macroeconomic downturn, November 2018, March 2020 with COVID, and then December 2021 with all the inflation fears entering monetary tightening, which we know we've got here in 2022. So what's the difference between these two? Well, the difference is very clear. These buyers here, the ones in the blue circles, these ones who buy in good times, are evidence that new buyers are coming into the market and accumulating. Those are your new tourists who do come in and they accumulate. But what happens in these green circles? These green circles are when you're in a bear market, but the accumulation is still perfect. These are your long-term holders. These are your hodlers. These are not your tourists. This is when the experts are buying. That's when they're doing their work. And we're getting or forming, potentially, a new opportunity for exactly that. So that's what that slide depicts. Really, really exciting piece of evidence. Yes, it does show you that we're in a bit of a bear market, but it gives you evidence that, look, you're now purchasing. If you've managed to dollar cost average, your dollar cost averaging in times historically where the strong hodlers have managed to buy. Not where the tourists buy, but the strong hodlers have managed to buy. Let's keep this moving. Now, this one is where I want to show you now of that accumulation, because we've just shown you that accumulation is quite strong. It's close to one reading on the accumulation chart. Who's doing the accumulating? Well, there's two key groups, as we can see from the glass node charts, that are doing this accumulation, okay? And the first one is your entities with less than 100 Bitcoin. These are small entities, okay? So what you can see here is you've got a few lines. You've got your light blue line, which is anybody with 0.01 to 0.1 Bitcoin, so less than a tenth of a Bitcoin. You've then got the next line, which is your green line, which is anybody from a tenth of a Bitcoin all the way up to 1 full Bitcoin. Then you've got this one, which is 1 to 10 Bitcoins. And then your pink line, your bright pink line here, is 10 Bitcoin to 100 Bitcoin. So look at all of these lines in unison. And one thing you can see, as these arrows nicely show, is the gradient is increasing. So people were accumulating. All of these wallet sizes were accumulating for quite a while now since the start of the year. But the rate of accumulation since lunar issue, which is this dotted line here, since the lunar issue has continued to grow at a faster and faster pace. Okay, so if I just move me out the way for a bit, you can see this is the lunar incident and the accumulation rate is getting at a faster and faster pace, which is fantastic. Now, there was another group which is also accumulating, and those were the wallets with more than 10K Bitcoin. Okay, so these are whales in essence, and you can see the whales continue to accumulate as well. And after the lunar crackdown, they continued to accumulate also. Now, it's worth noting for those of you who are super attentive, this also includes the Bitcoin that was sold by LFG, Lunar Foundation Guard. Remember, they sold like 85,000 Bitcoin, and whales managed to pick those up. Okay, so again, we don't have transparency of who managed to pick those up. I'd love to know about it. Do Kwon's not told us just yet. Nobody's told us about it. The exchanges haven't come out and told us about it. But definitely, those Bitcoin, the 85,000 Bitcoins, went at a good price to some other whales. So somebody was accumulating those Bitcoin. Is the moral of the story there? Okay, so we're getting accumulation from these two categories here, and the ones in between aren't really doing that much accumulation, and we'll show you that shortly. Okay, because what this shows is your accumulation trend score. I know it looks complicated, but just follow me. And what you'll see here is this segment here is anybody with up to this where my mouse is, this square here is anybody less than 10 Bitcoin. As you can see, these are dark colors which show good accumulation. And as you go into the middle, this is not great accumulation. So anybody with 10 all the way up to 10K, so kind of people with decent amount of Bitcoin, are not really accumulating heavy. And then anybody with more than 10K Bitcoin, they're accumulating. So you're getting small people plus huge whales accumulating. Those in the middle, very roughly, are not accumulating as much. Hopefully that makes some sense. Okay. Let's keep this moving. Hopefully you guys are taking alpha from this. Smash up the likes. Don't forget to subscribe, guys. Remember, if you want to trade, BYBIT, PRIMEXBT, get yourself set up and get trading, get buying your Bitcoin, and let's keep things moving, because now we're going to be looking at the total supply held by long-term holders. Okay, very important. These are the long-term holders, and what we can see is that the long-term supply has returned to all-time highs of 13.5 million Bitcoin. Okay, so this is all that all-time highs, and it's returned back to there. Now, it's not growing hugely, but they continue to soak up the supply. That's what we're finding, is that the long-term holders continue to soak up supply. They're not panicking. They're not reducing. They're plugged in along, and they're like a sponge where they keep slowly soaking up and absorbing this supply. More telling, however, is this chart, because this is not the most bullish thing in the world, because what I want to show you is this is the long-term holder SOPR. Now, the easiest way to think about this is what is the last movement of the price when these guys sold. And what you'll see here is by this circle, over the last week or so, the long-term holders, when they were selling, they were selling on an average of 27% loss when they were selling. Now, obviously, long-term holders shouldn't want to spend at a loss, right? They wouldn't want to get rid of their Bitcoin at a loss. They've taken on board, they've realized a 27% loss, which is not great. Now, the saving grace is that we've only ever seen this happen at really important times. We saw it happen here in March 2020, COVID, and we saw how we ran up thereafter, right? Bitcoin price exploded. We saw it happen in towards end of 2020 after the bull run, the previous bull run, when we were starting to bottom out after that bull run. We saw it again happen in the 2015 period. So it doesn't happen often, but when it does, it normally indicates a market bottom. So we can take a positive out of that, even though people are realizing, long-term holders are realizing a 27% loss on their Bitcoin over the last week, okay? So this really does give you an idea that we could be coming up to that final capitulation. You know, finally people are getting panicked and capitulating and selling at a 27% loss because they just don't think that Bitcoin's going to go any higher. They're hearing fear stories that Bitcoin's going to go to 10K, 15K, and they just sell at 27% loss. Okay, so that's what we're seeing here. Now, finally, this is the last chart I'm going to be sharing with you guys. This is the long-term holder spent price. Now, the easiest way to think about this is this is almost like a cost basis, right? What's your cost basis? It's a bit more complicated than that, but let's keep it as that for this video. Now, you can see the black price moving, which is the Bitcoin price. Now, historically, there was two key moments on this chart when you can see that the pink line, your long-term holder spent price, in other words, your cost basis, right? Think about it with inverted commas as cost basis, was higher than the Bitcoin price. Okay, so in these instances where the pink line is above, you are in a loss. So during this 2018 bear market, there were plenty of time here during 2019 that long-term holders were carrying an unrealized loss. Now here, once things then changed in 2019, you saw that the black line was ahead of the pink line, which means if you shade in this area in between, that is your unrealized profit. And then in COVID, the same thing happened again. We saw pink flip above black. Again, unrealized loss. Then look at this whole period as Bitcoin ran up to 64, then ran up towards 69 in 2021. Everybody here was in huge profits. Huge profits. Look at the area between the two lines. This all represents unrealized profit. But what have we just seen now? We've just seen the early signs here of that starting to change. Right? We've seen the early signs here of pink starting to tick above black, which means people are starting to turn into unrealized losses. In other words, when people log into their wallet, the majority of people have a cost basis of 32.8K. When Bitcoin falls below 32.8K, the vast majority of people, when they're opening their wallets, whether it's BYBIT, whether it's PRIMEXBT, whether it's anything else that they're using, they're looking at their portfolio, it's in the red. When it's in the red, they've got an unrealized loss. And some of those will capitulate like we saw on the previous slide and realize a loss. And last week, we saw people realizing a 27% loss. In other words, they open their portfolio, they're down 20%. They capitulate. They don't want to see Bitcoin go to 10K. They've seen the fear stories, they've seen the fear mongering, they've seen the FUD, and they've sold. They've capitulated. But the good thing is, this can normally indicate a bottom. It can indicate max fear, capitulation, and a time to return back to all-time highs. Right. That was a lot, guys. You might have to watch that twice. You might have to watch it slowly, not in ×2 if you're like me and watch videos in ×2. Hope you took some alpha away from this. I mean, look, we're in a difficult situation right now. If you're in the markets right now, you are one of those long-term hodlers that the graphs indicate. You're continuing to dollar cost average in. You're showing conviction. You're not being fudded out. You're not panicking. You're not capitulating. You're not selling or panic selling at a loss. You're holding your position. You're dollar cost averaging in your high conviction plays. And you're the ones that will see this bear market out and be able to ride the future into the next bull market. But not everybody is like that. There are weak hands out there who are getting fudded out, who are selling, and we need a little of that capitulation to happen before the market loses the oversaturatedness and gets ready for its next run to the all-time highs. Hope you guys enjoyed this video as always. Don't forget to smash up the like button and subscribe if you appreciate this type of content. Make sure you let me know about it in the comments. What I'm going to do is I'm going to link up a video to the Michael Kong CEO interview from Fantom. If you've not watched that, go and watch that. I'll also link up a video to the things you need to consider if you want to become a full-time crypto investor. That's a really important video. If you want to become a full-time crypto investor, you need to watch those. It's really important things for you to consider, and it's a good weekend video for you to watch. I've also uploaded a video on layer 2 scaling solutions. You need to watch that. That was posted a couple of hours ago. Go and watch that at some point. Put it in your watch later queue and let me know what you think about that one later on as well. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next one.